Hello y'all and welcome back. In this video I'm going to talk about the problem of free will versus determinism for naturalists. That's to say people that do not believe in anything supernatural and instead believe that science can in principle explain everything that's real. Now the problem of free will versus determinism shapes up very differently for a naturalist than it does for a supernaturalist for the following reason. If you're a naturalist, you believe that the universe began at some first moment, usually referred to as the Big Bang, and that scientific laws govern all matter. So you believe that everything that happens is determined by the initial state of the universe and the laws governing the behavior of matter, meaning by that there's some first moment, some moment when everything came into being, the Big Bang, and all that physical stuff when it came into being, when it first bang comes into being, is governed by physical laws, such that if you understood exactly how that physical stuff was arranged and exactly the laws governing the behavior of that matter, you could in principle predict literally everything that ever happened. Using a completed physical science, completed physical scientific prediction, you could predict literally everything that ever happened. Now, that means that everything that happens is determined by those two factors, again, the initial state of the universe and the laws governing the behavior of matter. But that also means that all human action is determined. So everything we do is determined. It's fixed, and indeed was fixed from the very first moment of the universe. And this is a problem, because as we pointed out in the last video, if somebody has no choice in whether or not they do something, then you can't hold them morally responsible. Remember the silly example I gave about me being thrown through a stained glass window, breaking the very expensive window. You don't hold me morally responsible for that for the very simple reason that I didn't choose to do that. But on this view, nobody chooses to do anything. Everything that every single person does has been determined from the very first moment of the universe. Again, by the initial state of the universe and the laws governing the behavior of matter. So, if a guy gets drunk, gets behind the wheel of a car, goes out and kills a child, horrible thing to do. But he didn't choose it. It was determined for him long before he was born, long before the particles that made him up became him making that choice. It was determined that he would do that. So he didn't freely choose it, so you can't hold him responsible for it. Somebody takes a dislike to you personally, decides to start a terrible rumor about you, they ruin your reputation, they ruin your career, they ruin your family life, they ruin your life. Horrible thing to do, right? Except you can't really hold them morally responsible for it. It was determined that they were going to do that from the very first moment of the universe. And in saying this, that moral responsibility is incompatible with naturalism on this view, I'm not just sort of taking a cheap shot at naturalism. I'm not setting up what's sometimes known as a straw man. This is a problem that naturalists themselves acknowledge is a real and genuine problem. I TA'd in graduate school for a guy that was quite a famous and outspoken atheist, famous and outspoken naturalist. And I remember when he presented in his section on free will versus determinism the very problem that I presented here. He said, it seems right that we hold people morally responsible for their actions. But since everything has been determined by the initial state of the universe and the laws governing the behavior of matter, we can't justifiably hold people morally responsible for their actions. That's a problem. And he didn't finish by saying, but I have a perfect solution to it. He just finished by saying, okay, that's the homework, I'll see you on Wednesday. So this is a tension that lingers, that's really there in the naturalistic picture of the world, that it seems impossible to account for moral responsibility, yet it seems impossible also to drop moral responsibility. The guy that gets drunk, gets behind the wheel of a car and kills a child ought to be held morally responsible for that action, and yet, on the naturalist view, he can't be. Now, there are a couple of proposed solutions to this, and one solution is to take a broadly compatibilist approach. Compatibilism is a philosophical position according to which having free will is actually compatible with being determined, so that having free will is compatible with all events, including human action, ultimately being determined by causes external to the will. Now we've seen that on this naturalist view, those causes external to the will are going to be the initial state of the universe and the laws governing the behavior of matter. Those cause what you do. But somebody might say you can still be held morally responsible despite the fact that you didn't choose that thing. How so? Well, I'll use an example from class here. Supposing that I determine that on the next quiz, say the quiz for this module, I want everyone to get 100%. I'm just feeling jovial and generous, and I just want everyone to get 100%. So I go into Canvas and I wire it up such that every single person that takes the quiz automatically gets 100%. Doesn't matter what you do, hit all the wrong answers, 100%. Only answer one question, 100%. Smash on the keys like a monkey, 100%. Okay? So you just get 100% no matter what you do. Now, supposing that you, not knowing this, study really hard for the quiz. So you watch all the videos and you take good notes and you go to the Zoom sessions and you double check. Oh, I guess there's no Zoom sessions in some of the classes. Forget that. I don't want to stress anybody out. So you take good notes in the videos, you study really hard, you go in, you take the quiz, and lo and behold, you freely choose all correct answers. You get all the answers right. And you hit submit, and ba-da, you got 100%. Now, did you have any choice in the matter of what you got? Absolutely not. I, a cause completely external to your will, determined that you would receive 100% on that quiz. Nevertheless, can we still hold you morally responsible for your preparation or lack thereof for the quiz? Can we still say you did a really good job preparing for that quiz? Can you still be praiseworthy for receiving 100%? Well, you prepared really well and you did select all correct answers, so it seems correct to say, yeah, we can hold you morally responsible for your performance on that quiz. There's not no role that you yourself play in how we evaluate you there. So, if this is true, then compatibilism is true. Being determined is compatible with also being morally responsible. Now, whether or not this constitutes a solution to the problem of free will versus determinism as it shapes up for a naturalist is a further question. There are objections that you might raise to this example. There are further concerns that you might raise about naturalism. But for the purposes of this particular video, I'll limit it to that. Again, the concern about naturalism is that since everything is determined by the initial state of the universe and the laws govern the behavior of matter, we can't hold anyone morally responsible for their actions, but it seems like we must hold people morally responsible for their actions. This is a problem for the naturalist. In response, you might become a compatibilist, holding that determinism is compatible with free will, but it's a further question whether those compatibilist responses in fact succeed. So this has been Free Will versus Determinism. I hope you have enjoyed it and learned something. I'll see you on the other side as we discuss the ontological argument. Thanks.